In Derek Carr's decade-long career, he's never won a single playoff game. He gets a lot of heat for this. But how much of the blame is actually on him? In his 9 years with the Raiders, he has had 6 different head coaches. There are many reasons to believe that the organization was the real issue, and it was Carr keeping them relevant.
If Derek Carr is not the quarterback of the Raiders, they not here.
In fact, most people don't realize since he came into the league in 2014, statistically, he's actually been more clutch than Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. Derek Carr is never in the discussions of great quarterbacks. It's partially due to his 2 playoff appearances and 0 playoff wins. But the Raiders repeatedly failed to put him in winnable situations. And despite all the turmoil, he still put up more consistent numbers than many quarterbacks regarded as better than him. Some of these quarterbacks have been to conference championships, even Super Bowls, yet they slum in the bottom 10 of key categories for the position. But never Derek Carr.
I'll remind everybody of 2 things. In 2021, Derek Carr midseason was an MVP candidate. And ask yourself this, when was the last time this league had a top 10, top 12 caliber player at that position that was a free agent?
In the 2014 NFL Draft, he was selected 36th overall by the then Oakland Raiders. 3 quarterbacks came off the board before him: Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel, and Teddy Bridgewater. 1 more QB was selected in the 2nd round with Carr: Jimmy Garoppolo. From top to bottom of that draft, you won't find any of these quarterbacks starting in the league anymore, only Carr. Let's compare him to some of the QBs from that draft who saw some success: Blake Bortles and Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's also see how he compares to current starting quarterbacks who came into the league around the same time: Dak Prescott and Jared Goff, both drafted in 2016. All 4 of them have multiple playoff wins, but these guys also had more consistency with their teams, competent defenses, and better skill position players. The 6 different head coaches Carr has had with the Raiders also came with chaotic midseason changes.
This is a team that has gone through things, whether it's John Gruden in the emails and him having to resign, things they went through with Henry Ruggs. This is a team that has faced adversities that we aren't used to seeing involved in the NFL.
The bulk of Garoppolo's starting days was in San Fran under 1 head coach. Dak's only had 2, and Jared Goff has had 3. Carr's had at least double the amount of coaching resets than any of them. Additionally, the Raiders don't hit on skill position players too well, and when they do, they don't stick around.
Adam Schefter has just tweeted, the Cowboys traded a 1st-round pick to the Raiders for wide receiver Amari Cooper.
In Carr's time with the Raiders, he had 11 skill position players with Pro Bowls under their belt. Jimmy G only had 6 seasons starting with the Niners and had 12 skill position players make the Pro Bowl. Dak's 8 seasons saw 13 Pro Bowlers. In Jared Goff's 8 years, he's had 4 players with All-Pro seasons compared to Carr's 2. He's had less talent surrounding him than most successful quarterbacks, yet he's still put up impressive numbers. When you look at the seasonal performances around the league, you'll find that Carr has only had 1 season in the bottom half for passing yards, and only twice was he in the bottom half for passing touchdowns. He's been in the top 10 for passing TDs 3 times. Dak's also done it 3 times, Goff had 4, and Bortles and Jimmy G have done it once each. But Carr has never been in the bottom 10 for either passing yards or passing touchdowns. That is not something any of the other 4 quarterbacks can say. Carr doesn't give you the ups and downs, he gives you consistency. And this is all with more turmoil and less skill around him.
And so for this team to continue to fight says a lot about their leaderships. Guys like Darren Waller, guys like Max Crosby, obviously the quarterback, Derek Carr.
Now, if the team could give him something on the defensive end, could Carr be a playoff quarterback? Dak Prescott has made it to the divisional round multiple times. Bortles made it to a conference championship. Jimmy G and Goff have made it to the Super Bowl. Carr has never even won a playoff game. How much of that is really on him? All of Carr's 9 years with the Raiders, his team found themselves in the bottom half of the league for scoring defense. It gets worse. 6 of those years, they were bottom 10. For Goff, that happened 4 times. For Bortles, 3 times. For Garoppolo, twice. And Dak only had a bottom 10 defense once. And twice, Carr's defense was dead last in points allowed. The other QBs never dealt with anything like that. The Raiders organization couldn't field a scoring defense better than 20th in the league throughout Carr's time there. Meanwhile, Goff played with 2 top 12 scoring defenses. Dak had the luxury of 5 different top 10 defenses. Garoppolo had 3 top 10 defenses backing him up, and even Bortles played with 2 top 5 defenses.
3rd and 10. Gabbert from the shotgun. Well protected, and now the football comes loose. They've got it. It's Calais Campbell, and he's...
No wonder they went further in the playoffs. In terms of takeaways, Carr's Raiders were in the bottom 10 7 times. That only happened to Goff, Dak, and Jimmy G once each, and to Bortles 3 times. Your grandpa's Raiders may have been synonymous with defense, but Derek Carr's Raiders never were. They kept getting scored on and never turned the ball over. So he was forced to throw the ball a lot. A lot of potential for turnovers, right? Despite having awful defenses supporting him and despite his team leaning on him to throw at high volumes, Carr kept it relatively mistake-free. So much so that he repeatedly found himself in the top 10 of every coach's favorite quarterback category. Carr is actually more careful than you realize. When ranking quarterbacks in terms of fewest interceptions with a minimum of 500 pass attempts on a season, averaging out to about 30 passes a game, Carr was in the top 10 7 of his 9 years with the Raiders. The other 2 years, he ranked 11th and 12th. He rarely made mistakes, even with high-volume passing. How many times were the other QBs in the top 10? Goff made it twice, Dak 4 times, Bortles and Jimmy G never made it. All 4 of those quarterbacks didn't even qualify for this stat in multiple seasons, meaning they averaged less than 30 passes a game because they had the luxury of good defenses around them. Jimmy G never even qualified for this stat because he's never thrown 500 times any season. How nice must it be to be under center for the Niners? How many Super Bowls could Carr have brought to San Francisco? Somewhere where he had more help and a stable offensive genius head coach. Could Carr have even beaten the Chiefs in their last 2 Super Bowl matchups? Sure, it would have to be against Mahomes and the refs. But do you know what has never scared Derek Carr? Being down in crunch time. In one major category, he leads all QBs since entering the league. In 2014, Week 12, Carr was playing the Chiefs and was down 20-17 in the 4th quarter. He moved the Raiders down the field, and with under 2 minutes left, he had them inside the 10-yard line.
Gonna go up top here on 1st down, going to the end zone, and he's got his target for the touchdown!
This was his first ever 4th quarter comeback and game-winning drive. But it was far from his last. Carr had 4 more 4th quarter comebacks in the 2015 season. His team kept being down, but he was able to pull them back to victory. In 2016, he orchestrated 7 more 4th quarter comebacks. It became a theme for Carr all throughout his career, saving his team from a loss in the final minutes of the game.
I think we talk about these QBs in this league a lot, and we leave Derek Carr out. What I've seen from Derek Carr is he's been as clutch as any quarterback in the NFL.
If you look at the data, you'd have to agree. On the list of quarterbacks with the most 4th quarter comebacks all time, Derek Carr is tied with Brett Favre at 14th. Carr is also 3rd in 4th quarter comebacks and game-winning drives among active quarterbacks, behind only Matt Stafford and Russell Wilson. But here is where no one can touch him. Since he came into the league in 2014, he has more 4th quarter comebacks and game-winning drives than anyone else. His 28 4th quarter comebacks is 3 more than Stafford, and his 34 game-winning drives is 2 more than Stafford. When you think of clutch performances, you can think of Derek Carr alongside Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. Carr hasn't played longer than Rodgers and still has more comebacks than him, but he has had more seasons under his belt than Mahomes and Allen. So let's look at seasonal averages. Excluding the current 2024 season, Carr has been in the league for 10 years while producing 28 4th quarter comebacks and 34 game-winning drives. That's 2.8 4th quarter comebacks and 3.4 game-winning drives per year. Looking at Mahomes, excluding this year and his first year where he hardly played, he has 14 4th quarter comebacks and 15 game-winning drives in 6 years, which is 2.3 4th quarter comebacks and 2.5 game-winning drives a year. In Allen's 6 years, He averages 2.2 fourth-quarter comebacks and 3.2 game-winning drives. With the game on the line, statistically, Derek Carr gets it done more often than the stars of the league today. Sure, maybe the other guys don't get as many comeback opportunities because their defenses don't let up absurd amounts of points. But that's what Carr had to deal with on the struggling Raiders.
You've been on fire. Have you ever been that hot in Las Vegas?
Not that hot. It's probably why I'm going somewhere else.
This is why everyone should watch out for the Saints with Carr at the helm. He's finally got a great defense. His first year in New Orleans didn't set off fireworks, but he's now got the consistency with another year under coach Dennis Allen. Offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak has also brought in a Shanahan-style offense that seems to suit Carr's skill set. In the first 2 weeks of the 2024 season, the Saints put up 91 points. That is tied for the fourth most points a team has ever put up in the first 2 weeks of the season. Yes, the O-line is fantastic. Yes, the run game has been on fire. And yes, New Orleans has some weapons. But all that means nothing if you don't have the right person getting them the ball. Just ask the Panthers with their recent switch to Andy Dalton. New Orleans has been searching for their next long-term quarterback ever since Breeze retired, and Carr has been looking for a stable team to build with. It seems like they finally found each other. Who knows where this can lead? The playoffs? Perhaps Carr's first playoff win ever? Or maybe even further than that? Thanks for watching. If you liked our video, be sure to subscribe and check out our other videos on the screen.